good to be with you this morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Kent. We're a spiritual community that seeks to be diverse and inclusive as we inspire love, work for justice, and work together as a community, which is our mission. I'm David Weaver. I'm one of the worship associates for the congregation. So if you're here in person this morning and there's a joy or sorrow on your heart that you'd like to share, please fill out one of the yellow cards and give it to the ushers during the first hymn. And you can also bring it up if you have filled it out later. If you're on Zoom, you also can we also welcome your joys and sorrows. Just put them in the chat box and we'll cover them at that point. So if you're new to the congregation and would like us to be in contact, we invite you to fill out a green card. The membership committee will be hosting a table after the service right in the back. So please stop by the welcome table following the service, and we look forward to greeting you there. I want to thank our team leading worship this morning, our worship associate, Pastor Stephen, our musicians, Vanessa and Katie, our ushers and greeters, our hard work tech team, Julie and Max, our administrator, Mary Beth, and Jenny, who prepared all the slides for today's service. Welcome, friends. It's great to see folks hanging out and getting to know one another and just having a good time. So now let's take a few moments to center ourselves and to breathe. As we enter our time of community with our breathing, let's invite the Spirit to be present within us and among us and to open our hearts to the life that is a gift for today. So in this spirit, let us worship together.
Thank you, Vanessa. As Unitarian Universalists, when we gather, we light a flame within a chalice. It unites us in our time together, and it reminds us for the ongoing search for the light of truth within us and among us. The chalice is also a light to guide us on our shared journey and a reminder of our interconnectedness with all of existence of which we are a part. As I light our shared chalice, I invite you, if you're on Zoom, to light your home chalice. Would you join me now in the words of our congregational covenant? You'll find them in your order of service or on the big screen. We affirm that each life has brilliance, and when joined with others in joyful community, has the power to transform. We pledge ourselves and our resources to this journey. This covenant inspires us to dwell together in right relationship. We promise to extend hospitality, nurture community for all ages, encourage spiritual growth, honor diversity, and practice kindness. We're together in our spiritual home. This is a place where we learn how to be human and how to deepen our relationship with what we hold to be holy, sacred. To do this each week, we take time, shared silence together, for each of us to connect with that which we hold to be of ultimate meaning in our lives. During this time, some of us pray, others reflect, others will meditate, some offer gratitude for life, or we can simply be for a few moments. The how doesn't matter. What does matter is that we are reminded once again of who we truly are. We have a chance to reflect on our lives and their terror and wonder, and we reconnect with the sacred mystery that is the very heart of life itself. Let's take some silent time together. Wisdom says that a sorrow shared is a burden lightened. In that spirit of being a community of compassion and care, we take time now to share sorrows, struggles, and losses that are in our hearts right now. If you're on Zoom, you are welcome to share a sorrow, loss, or struggle you may have. If there's someone you're thinking of this morning, I invite you to speak their names out loud now. As we hold these things, let's enter into a spirit of prayer together with these words from Reverend Angela Herrera. Beneath the hustle and bustle, beneath the stream of thoughts that clambers and clatters over the landscape of our interior world, beneath our habits of momentum and stirring, there is a stillness, deep and peaceful. It is the place where creation begins. Who lives there? We know her by many names: truth, love, God, wisdom. We turn our hearts toward her face, toward the mystery, and bring our prayers of awe, of longing, of hope, of exhaustion. She holds us in our grief and anger, in our disappointment, our loneliness, and our rebirth. From her viewpoint, she sees us children of the stillness, children of love. She sees our place in the order of things joined together in the larger story. And she invites us again and again into living, invites us into loving, invites us into being loved. May we be restored to wholeness and blessed with peace. May all those whom we encounter receive this blessing through our being in the world. May it be so. Life has brought us moments of joy, wonder, and awe this past week as well. If you're on Zoom and have a joy or wonder or moment of awe to share, please use the chat box. And if you're here in this room and have a moment of wonder or awe to share, just shout it out. Elizabeth Swango shares on Monday or Tuesday, my sister-in-law will be coming home from the hospital and will be in hospice care. We hold you and your family in our hearts in this time of transition. mindful of the blessings we experience in our lives, grateful for the gift of life itself, for the companionship of each other on our journey, for the beauty of our world, and for all the possibilities today offers. We raise our hearts in gladness, and together we say, Amen.
Happy is the one who finds wisdom, and the one who gets understanding. She's a tree of life to those who stay close beside her, and happy is everyone who lays hold on her. She's more precious than rubies, and all things we can desire are not to be compared unto her. Length of days is in her right hand, and in her left hand riches and honor. Her ways are ways of pleasantness, and all her paths are peace. Her paths are peace.
Our reading this morning is titled The Layers by Stanley Kunitz. I have walked through many lives, some of them my own, and I am not who I was, though some principle of being abides, from which I struggle not to stray. When I look behind, as I am compelled to look before I can gather strength to proceed on my journey, I see the milestones dwindling toward the horizon, and the slow fires trailing from the abandoned campsites over which scavenger angels wheel on heavy wings. Oh, I have made myself a tribe out of my true affections, and my tribe is scattered. How shall the heart be reconciled to its feast of losses? In a rising wind, the manic dust of my friends, those who fell along the way, bitterly stings my face. Yet I turn, exulting somewhat, with my will intact to go wherever I need to go, and every stone on the road precious to me. In my darkest night, when the moon was covered and I roamed through wreckage, a nimbus clouded voice directed me, live in the layers, not on the litter. Though I lack the art to decipher it, no doubt the next chapter in my book of transformations is already written. I am not done with my changes.
Live in the layers, not on the litter. Poet Stanley Kunitz was 95 years old when he wrote the poem titled The Layers. Kunitz had been named Poet Laureate of the Library of Congress twice, the first time at age 69 and the second time at age 95. Take heart, aspiring writers, there's still time. Kunitz said he had been dreaming when those 8 words came to him: live in the layers, not on the litter. We know that wisdom comes from many sources, from philosophers, theologians, scientists, and perhaps at times, as Kunitz experienced, mysteriously appearing in our own dreams. But in my experience, wisdom's origins are a bit more earthy. My parents had 7 boys, and Mom was determined that the old nugget of wisdom, boys will be boys, would not be the last word in her house. Her boys would also learn how to do household chores. We took turns washing dishes, no dishwasher, vacuuming, even washing windows, a dreaded task. I'll never forget when Mom came to inspect windows I had washed rather hastily. After looking a bit, she said, "Are you sure you washed the corners?" And then her wisdom, "If you do it right the first time, you don't have to do it again." As a kid, I was not fond of those words, possibly because I heard them more than once. Imagine that. Mom's wisdom was far too earthy for my young palate. So we all know something about wisdom sayings. For example, an apple a day, keeps the doctor away. An old one, loose lips, and waste not, want not. Yeah, and as pithy as these sayings may at first seem, they convey wisdom that was hard won by those who've gone before us. Waste not, want not is not simply a throwaway line. There's a lot of life experience behind those 4 words. Maybe there was a serious drought, and people who had watered their lawns with abandon were now running out of water for cooking. Maybe a young father died, leaving his partner struggling to put food on the table for their 3 children. Waste not, want not. That's how a lot of wisdom is born, as a result of hard-won life experience. And many of the world's cultures and religions have a set of writings that they call wisdom literature. Properly understood, wisdom literature doesn't presume to offer answers for all time. Instead, wisdom invites us into a conversation about the important questions of life. Turning to wisdom literature is not simply giving blind allegiance to some external authority. It's about joining a conversation with those who've gone before us. In the Hebrew Bible, there are several books that are classified as wisdom writings. 2 of them are the book of Proverbs, and a few books later, the book of Job. What's fascinating about the Hebrew Bible is that it does not speak with one voice. For example, the Proverbs reveals an almost mechanical understanding of the world. If you're just, good things will happen to you. If you're unjust, bad things will happen to you. The book of Proverbs sees wisdom basically as cause and effect. Listen to these couple of verses from Proverbs. Raise up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. Maybe, but no guarantee. I like this one. Folly is bound up in the heart of a boy, but the rod of discipline drives it far away. There's a conversation starter. And this one, oppressing the poor in order to enrich oneself will only lead to loss. Is that true? Look around a bit. Proverbs, cause and effect. On the other hand, a couple doors down from Proverbs is the Hebrew book of Job. And it tells a story that is in direct contradiction to this cause and effect wisdom about life. Job was a fine citizen, smart, hardworking, and generous with the poor. He had healthy children. His business was wildly successful. And yet, calamity happens. One by one, Job's children die of illnesses or freak accidents, being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Job has one financial setback after another, and eventually he loses everything he owns. And on top of that, he gets terribly sick, his body covered in sores. Job's partner had probably been raised with the cause and effect understanding of how things are supposed to work in the world. Life isn't supposed to be this way. She advises him to curse God and die. Proverbs and Job, two voices in the wisdom conversation. One very cause and effect, one not so much. It invites us into a serious conversation. A few months ago, Pastor Steve and Lori Merkin McGee led a 10-week class called Building Your Own Theology. There were about 10 of us around the table, and we brought a lot of different life experience to the table. Each one of us talked with the group about our history with religion or spirituality, the family we grew up in, what our parents had taught us, what we did with those teachings after we left home, and how our understandings have changed over time. They were fascinating stories. A lot of earthy wisdom around that table. A lot of layers in our stories. And we brought our life experiences to bear on topics like, small topics like, what do you think about human nature? At heart, are we basically good, bad, or something else? We were all over the map on this one. What do you think about ultimate reality? Is there a higher power? Is there a God? And why do you think what you do? What has shaped how you think about these questions? This class was a great experience because we came to recognize the many chapters each of us had in our lives. Chapters, layers, if you will, of life experience and wisdom. We gained a deeper understanding, hopefully, of ourselves, of each other, and of the life experiences that have shaped our values. Best of all, we came away with some deeper friendships. We didn't want the class to end. A lot of us wanted to continue. So preparing for today, I asked several folks if they had writings that function as wisdom in their lives. And as you might imagine, I had some great conversations. Let me mention just a few. One person guided me to the Hindu text Rig Veda, and in truth, I know very little about this sacred text, yet people have been in conversation with this wisdom for over 3,000 years. And today, there are 1 billion people for whom Rig Veda is a source of wisdom, a conversation partner. I need to know more about that text. I want to better understand my neighbor. A couple of parents turned me on to a Harry Potter quote. It is our choices, Harry, that show us what we truly are, far more than our abilities. We've used this quote raising our kids, they said, and now as young adults, the kids are quoting it back to us. That's wisdom literature in action. One person pointed me to Sheri Tepper, a feminist science fiction writer, whose writing inspires her to think about old challenges in fresh, new ways. I'll be honest, I had never even heard of Sheri Tepper, but these are folks who find wisdom for living in her writings. Some years ago, someone brought me the Stanley Kunitz poem as something they returned to again and again, to think about the seasons of life and their meaning. I invite you to spend some time with that poem sometime. It's a gold mine. Kunitz encourages us to live in the layers, not on the litter. Wisdom is found in the layers, in the hard-won experiences of living, both our own and the generations who've come before us. And how sad it would be to live as isolated islands in the stream of human history, cut off from that vast river of wisdom of those who have lived before us. What a feast for living they provide in their wisdom. Your wisdom is a gift as well. You all know a bit of that quickening of your spirit that comes when you recognize, I've actually learned a couple of things along the way. Your life experiences have not been in vain. Perhaps there have been broken relationships or bad decisions made along the way. Maybe injustice has spent some time at your table or tragedy visited your home. These things have not been in vain because we share our wisdom with each other. That's why we gather week after week. That's why we volunteer in this community, getting to know one another better while serving coffee, for example, or setting up Hobbs Hall for an event, or studying racism and how we can work together to make a difference, or marching in a pride parade. This is why we take risks and join a small group, what we call covenant groups here in this congregation, setting aside a few hours a month to really learn to get to know each other. We gather to help each other step through the litter that can so easily distract us, to live together in the layers of life. May it be so. You're invited into a few moments of silent reflection.
Two tests of the spiritual life are the capacity to give and the capacity to receive. Our community thrives in its shared life together as each of us participates in the circle of giving and receiving. This is possible because of your generous gifts, not only of money, but of time, of care for one another, and the truth that we are all connected. Thank you. To help others in our community thrive, we give to agencies and organizations in Kent and beyond that serve those in need. July's special offering is for the Immigrant Worker Project, the IWP. It was founded in 1998 to address the needs of the farm workers and rural migrant communities in Ohio. At the heart of the project is a deep commitment to economic, legal, political, and social justice for the Latinx community. IWP supports human dignity and justice for immigrants while building communities that embrace cultural diversity. In the spirit of gratitude for the gift of each other in this community and the abundance that makes our generosity possible, we now give and receive the offering as a sign of our shared commitment to the life and work of this congregation and beyond. Will the ushers please receive the offering? Thank you, Vanessa. Now, to bring our time of worship to its close, would you join me in the words for extinguishing the chalice? We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. May we carry these in our hearts and minds until we are together again.
As we go from this place, friends, the blessing of wisdom be upon us, the power of love direct and sustain us, and may the peace of this community preserve our going out and our coming in from this time forth until we meet again. Go in peace.